I wish good things to you who's watching this. I am Alexey, and today I have a different kind of puzzle for you. This one's not so much about finding the right move, but about explaining why. You'll see what I mean in a second. This position arose in the bronze medal match of the European Team Carcassonne Online Championships 2021. Latvia is playing Romania. And this is the decider game for everything, because everything was tied at that point. With the red meeples, we have Krišs Kauķis of Latvia, and we'll be looking at this position from his perspective. And with the yellow meeple, we have Mihnea Nicolescu of Romania. So, as we can see, yellow is currently ahead slightly on the scoreboard and massively on the meeples. On the other hand, red has more points on the board. In fact, red has 5 points for the city ruins, 7 points for the road, and 11 points for the monasteries, giving him 23 points over here in total, so he is currently at plus 19. But with 4 extra meeples, yellow will be looking to narrow that difference in just the next few moves, starting by grabbing a 6-point field and at the same time indirectly attacking this monastery. And so, to prevent a block of this square, red now grabs 2 points and at the same time makes the square less vulnerable because there are still 6 tiles that fit here. Great. Now, yellow places this road down below and is currently threatening 2 different possibilities of blocking, either with a road tile on the right or with a city tile on the left. An unpleasant situation to be in. So how do we deal with that? This is the critical position of the game, and actually in the post-game analysis we've had a lot of discussion between our team members, and opinions were split. We didn't really come to an agreement which was the best move, and that's why I like you to think. So where did you place this monastery? I mean, I can tell you right off the bat that, there aren't really good monastery spots in the position, maybe this one or this one, but they're only worth 4 points, so you kind of need to use it just as a defense tile rather than as a functional tile for scoring points. So, either we protect this square by placing it over here, or we protect this square by placing it over here. Which one would you do? And think of both advantages and disadvantages of each of these 2 moves and try to find at least 3 for both of these moves, because it's going to be a really close call no matter what. All right, are you ready? Good. So, let's start with this move. So let's say if we choose to put this tile on the right, then the advantages are as follows. So we're prioritizing, because you see, yellow was threatening to make 100% block over here, while the threat over here on the left is only to 50%, because 1 tile to fit in this potential hole still exists. And the second advantage is that this defense is pretty solid, because, nothing's blockable over here. The blocking attack cannot be continued, and there's still 3 tiles that fit here, so that's 88 or 87%-ish, something like this. Now, the second, or the third, the fourth, I don't know, the next upside is that there are scenarios in which we get this city tile and we place it over here and we meeple this city and we get the 6 point for the city as well, kind of with tempo. Or sometimes we can just meeple the city, or sometimes we can pre-build it first with something else over here and then meeple the city and score these 6 points. And the final bits is a bit subtle, but actually it could be one of possibly the most important, or at least the second most important argument for placing this tile is the value of future tiles. So if we place the monastery over here, and if yellow draws a road, any road, then they're completely useless to yellow. Even if yellow draws a crossroads, there's no place in the position where you can score 2 points, except over here, which really benefits more red than yellow, so yellow wouldn't do that necessarily. And if we don't place this tile over here, well, we give yellow the option to productively spend a road if they do draw a road, and we definitely want our opponent to be making as many useless moves as possible. All right, now here come the downsides. Oh, no, there's one more upside, actually. You're leaving this square, well, potentially in harm's way, and there might be even some value in doing that. So this one you wouldn't know because you would have to see the game from the start, but this particular opponent has shown that they're willing to spend more tiles than average on blocking. So, well, this is how red ended up with a couple of blocked meeples over here, but yellow did invest quite a few tiles to make that happen. So, this means that in some scenarios, possibly they might spend a valuable tile on blocking here and reduce the scoring potential. You know, maybe they even spend a city cap, which of course would be ideal for us because if they place a city cap over here, then this kind of justifies losing 2 meeples anyway because they're foregoing throwing the city cap over here and potentially scoring, I don't know, 7 points in their own field or something like this. This means that if they get a better blocking tile, such as this one, then they might not be happy with a 50% block and like still continue spending tiles over here and over here to block this further. But I just wanted to tell you this because sometimes your considerations could be not only absolute, but also specific to the playing pattern and the preferences and the style of your particular opponent. So that was a lot of upside, but there's some downside as well. The main one is that with this move, you're developing your opponent's field. And that's a biggie, because at the moment, this field doesn't have really any good squares. Well, it had this one, right? But you can throw a city cap over here, but on this square that you've just created, you can throw a divider. That's a big deal. Like if your opponent gets a tile like this, then they can score a couple of cities, and that will already be like 14 extra points with a lucky run out, and that will be pretty much game over, because again, we don't have a lot of meeples, so we can't really create big fields because we're more likely to lose field fights. So we want to keep everything very narrow. Now, another downside, it kind of all ties down to that field, is that this city can be sometimes a little bit awkward. So there are scenarios when we get the city cap and we place it over here, and then we have another dilemma. So do we meeple this city in a vulnerable position, or do we just leave it as it is, in which case our opponents can grab easy 6 points, which actually turns into 9 points because this is your opponent's field. Also, we've committed ourselves to 3 tiles, but to 3 valuable tiles, because like caps are great. Caps have always a use elsewhere. You can start a new city somewhere, and then instead of starting a new city or doing something that we want to do, we will be spending a move and just adding 1 point to our monastery, while the actual scoring potential of this tile is greater. So ideally, of course, we want to complete this with a triangle, and there's still 3 of those left. Now let's look at the move on the left. So, well, the main upside is that you're kind of saving 2 meeples instead of 1. So even if your opponent blocks this one, then, you still have 94% actually, because you have 4 tiles that fit over here to put in this square. So that's great. Also, this can be considered a priority spot because many roads have gone out, and actually your opponent does not have too many blocking tiles over here. So it's not like it's certain death. I mean, this spot can still be saved later on, but your opponent has more blocking tiles, more city tiles that he can place over here. So that could be a reason to prioritize this. And also, you get some compensation even if your opponent blocks over here. So if your opponent gets a road, like this one, and places it over here, then they've constricted their own field. So yes, we lose a meeple, but at least this field is now not as dangerous, and it might be a price that's worth paying for, perhaps. There is also one more thing, is that this move sets up for a low probability but high impact scenario where we get the remaining monastery with the road. Then we get to place it over here and score 8 points immediately, or in some scenarios we can pre-build this road and just score 4 points for the road as well. And the thing is, your opponent doesn't have a good square for monastery with the road himself, so this would be one instance of a future tile being more valuable for you than for your opponent. There are, of course, downsides. One is that this square is not completely saved, because yellow can use this platform to block further with tempo. For example, start a new city over here and then, you know, put another city tile over here if we don't get a proper saving tile. The second downside is that it makes it harder for you to build up your left monastery, because in this situation you have a certain advantage about future tiles, about all the road tiles, because you have an open road where you can dump all straight lines and your opponent has nowhere to put these roads. And also a biggie is the 4 remaining T-shaped crossroads, because you have a spot to use it but your opponent has not. But now using a T-shaped crossroads, if you get it, becomes a little bit more dangerous over here, because this gives more valuable tiles to your opponent. Let's say you grab 2 points over here and your opponent gets something like this and scores 2 points and also blocks you. So you've kind of reduced the value of the T-shaped crossroads for yourself as well. And the third downside is that you are taking away some tiles from yourself, which, I mean, is the same in both cases, right? And for any defense almost, especially for indirect defenses. So now you can't put a curve over here. And there were still 2 curves remaining, if I'm not mistaken, and you can't put a T-shaped crossroads over here. As you see, both moves have their upsides and their downsides, and it's just a matter of prioritizing and weighting which ones matter more. And now, what would you do? Please let me know in the comments, and did I miss any other upside or downside or any other considerations that you have in this position? I'd be very curious to hear your thoughts. And now let me show you what happened in the actual game. So red opted to save the meeple on the left. In the next move, yellow managed to save the city. Not save, block this spot. But at the same time, block off his own field as well. So we got some compensation. And actually what happened later is that red lost these 2 meeples anyway, but red won the game through other means. If you'd like to see the whole game at some point, please let me know. Actually, I might do it anyway, because it's actually a pretty interesting one. But there's so many things lining up in the priority, because there's one more game and one more puzzle. I want to do everything before the end of the year. So stay tuned, and please subscribe to this channel if you haven't already. Send me game suggestions. Please click the like buttons and all the good stuff. It helps the algorithm quite a lot. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you soon.